Unveiling Strong Delusion, Video 31. Milka, the Mother of Rebecca, Part 4. Mercury, Moses, and the Catholic Church. This video will connect Mercury, Moses, the Catholic Church, and the crucifixion of Jesus. It also will connect music, angels, child sacrifice, castration, mother-son incest, and the coronavirus. Mercury, the god of modern times. Greek and Roman legends describe Mercury, Hermes, as the god of commerce, merchants, thieves, travelers, and crossroads, or much of our modern society. Thieves can sound like thieves with the flexion of B and V. The Greeks also viewed Hermes as a wisdom god who crossed the border between gods and men. The Old Testament has this concept in the Malachim, or messenger angels, and the New Testament has this concept in the angels, the messengers or the ones who announce. Thoth, the Egyptian Mercury. Thoth gave mankind writing, some legends say, while others tell us Cadmus did so. Thoth represents magic, wisdom, and the moon. Historians tell us that when Alexander the Great invaded Egypt, he recognized Thoth as the equivalent of Hermes. Harry Hubbard has a lot of videos on Alexander's tomb in southern Illinois, or Little Egypt. Harry has a lot of good videos. Thoth and Moses. Many scholars have linked Moses with Thoth. Some have identified Tutmosis IV with Moses. The link between Moses and Thoth, or Mercury, links him to the Catholic Church and French royalty, as we will see. Thoth, the ibis head god. Now, scholars tell us that Thoth went by the name of Jehuti, which means he who is like the ibis. Josephus tells a tale of Moses and ibises and serpents. The king of Egypt sent Moses to make war against the Ethiopians. Snakes infested the ground they had to cross over. Moses had his men gather ibises and put them in baskets and starve them. When they reached the serpents, Moses had the starving ibises released and they devoured the serpents. That's in Josephus' Antiquities of the Jews, chapter 10, paragraph 2. Hermes Trismegistus. Hermes Trismegistus, or the 3 times great, purportedly wrote the Corpus Hermeticum. This work magically appeared in Europe, supposedly from Egypt, during the Renaissance, at the same time all the ancient Roman and Greek works magically appeared. Hermeticism links to Albert Pike and Freemasonry. Janus, or Janus, the two-faced god. Janus represented transitions such as doors, gates, and concepts like going from war to peace. Quote, he was probably considered the most important Roman god, and his name was the first to be mentioned in prayers, regardless of which god the worshiper wanted to pray to, end of quote, and that's from GreekMythology.com. And here we have a statue of Janus with 2 faces. Sometimes you see him depicted as a man on one side and a woman on the other. Yahweh, the two-faced god. Previously I said that Yah, or Yah, represented the moon in Egyptian theology, and that I think Yahweh may refer to the moon and the sun, or duality. Janus has the same phonetics as Yah, with the added Roman us. Now, I think that Janus and Yah represent the same God, and that the Romans prayed to Yahweh. And we'll see in a later video, eventually, that Moses has a duplicate as a very famous Roman, as does Joshua. Joseph P. Farrell and Scott D. Hart wrote a book titled Yahweh, the Two-Faced God, Theology, Topology, and Terrorism. And that's a pretty good book. It's very short, but it has a lot of interesting information into it and a lot of ideas. They're both Oxford Americans, but they both went to Oxford, got their degrees from Oxford, and they have like esoteric views. Thoth, or Hermes Mercury, represents the moon. Thou shalt not kill versus kill them all. Thou shalt not kill, Exodus 20:13. And when the Lord thy God shall deliver them before thee, thou shalt smite them, and utterly destroy them. Thou shalt make no covenant with them, nor show mercy unto them. Deuteronomy 7:2. And the Bible just has tons of these dichotomies of where you have the loving God and then the killer God. The caduceus of Mercury, 2 snakes, male and female. In the next video on Dionysus Bacchus, we will learn their names. Etymology of caduceus. Online sources tell us the Latin word caduceus means herald staff and comes from the Greek karikeon, or herald staff, and carex, a herald. This seems tenuous at best. I think more likely it comes from the Latin verb cadere, to fall. We fall, cadimos, as in cadmus. They fall, cadunt. The fallen ones, an idea that permeates the Bible, Apocrypha, and other myths. And as I've stated before, I think the Greek and Latin gods represent the fallen angels from the biblical context, biblical idea. And here we have the U.S. Medical Corps medical patch with the caduceus rather than the rod of Asclepius, and the Surgeon General of the U.S. Army. And a lot of American medical people use this rather than the rod of Asclepius. And for instance, Wikipedia tells us 63% of American hospitals use this symbol of the caduceus, which I think goes to show that they're commercial operations rather than medical. And here we have the Mercury dime with Mercury with the winged hat and the fasces on the back. And, America is, as many of you know, America has many fascist symbols with George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, etc. Biblical sources of fasces. Ralph Ellis, in his book Cleopatra to Christ, suggests the 12 rods and the fasces represent the 12 tribes of Israel, and the axe represents the Egyptian or Minoan axe, God's symbols, and that's pages 37 and 39. As we saw in video 6 on Ur, Keating's General History of Ireland equates Crete with Egypt. Quote, "And Moses spake unto the children of Israel, and every one of their princes gave him a rod apiece, for each prince one, according to their fathers' houses, even 12 rods, and the rod of Aaron was among their rods." Numbers 17:6. The lyre or lyre. Mercury's or Hermes giving the lyre he invented to Apollo, and by Carlos Cessio. Now, the legends tell us that Mercury as a baby created a lyre out of a tortoise shell. And then he used that lyre to rustle a herd of white cattle that belonged to Apollo and hid him in a cave. But a shepherd ratted him out to Apollo, and Apollo dragged him before Zeus, and then where he eventually confessed, and then in atonement he gave the lyre to Apollo. And this is an interesting picture here. If you look at Mercury on the left, he either has no genitalia or super small male genitalia. Another thing about this, the gender bending idea of the gods, they all have relatively feminine features, men or women. Music is well said to be the speech of angels. When the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God shouted for joy, Job 38:7. And when he had taken the book, the 4 beasts and 24 elders fell down before the Lamb, having every one of them harps and golden vials full of odors, which are the prayers of saints. Revelation 5:8. And there are 300 angels, very bright, who look after paradise, and with never-ceasing voice and pleasant singing they worship the Lord every day and hour. 2 Enoch 8. He, Lehi, saw God sitting upon his throne, surrounded with numberless concourses of angels in the attitude of singing and praising their God. Book of Mormon 1 Nephi 1:8. And you can see this idea of angels singing permeates theology. And I think, and we'll eventually come back to the Book of Mormon in the next video too, I think this also is actually scripture. I unfortunately have not read the whole Book of Mormon, but I will. Music industry, eunuchs or angels. Music has charms to soothe a savage breast, to soften rocks, or bend a knotted oak. William Congreve. A song exists for every possible human situation and emotion. Do angels or demigods or demons have a gender, or do they choose a gender when they anthropomorphize themselves? Legends tell us that gods can change the gender of humans. And the cherubim or cherubim look like humans. Of course, there are some biblical passages that go against that, but I'm going by iconography mostly, and paintings and things like that. Legends tell us they come from the Pleiades, or seven sisters, a cluster of stars in the Taurus constellation, and Taurus plays a big role in the Bible. Now, Sheba means seven in Hebrew, and that's Strong's Hebrew 651 and the Theological Word Book of the Old Testament 2318. Quote, and the Sabaeans, Strong's Hebrew 7614, Sheba 7, fell upon them and took them away. Yea, they have slain the servants with the edge of the sword, and I only am escaped alone to thee. Job 1:15. And the sword indicates the cherub. The word cherub, Strong's Hebrew 3742, derives from keruv, kerev or kereb, because the B and the V are interchangeable, or sword, Strong's Hebrew 2719. And kerev, sword, derives from Strong's Hebrew 2717, karav, to be waste, lay waste, make desolate, be in ruins. And here we have a cherub with a flaming sword at St. James the Great Church in Ewhurst Green, UK, which is in the southeast of England. You can see the flaming sword, and you can see the androgynous look of this angel. And as Jungle Surfer has pointed out in a couple of recent videos, Beatrice will get married to her Italian count boyfriend at St. James Palace. Now here I just wanted to show this angel's name, which you can see down here, Suriel, S-U-R-I-E-L. Suriel, the angel of death with a bloody sword. Legends say Moses received all his knowledge from Suriel. Quote, like Metatron, Suriel is a prince of the presence, Malach HaPanim, and like Raphael, an angel of healing. A dictionary of angels, including the fallen angels, by Gustav Davidson. And Malach HaPanim literally translates as messenger or angel of the faces. Now here we have the Archangel Michael by Guido Reni. And again, a very androgynous, feminine-looking Archangel Michael with the sword killing a man, or appearing to be about to kill a man. And with red hair. Notice the reddish hair. And Michael ranks as the greatest of angels in Jewish, Christian, and Islamic writings. Quote, he is chief of the orders of virtues, chief of archangels, prince of the presence, angel of repentance, righteousness, mercy, and sanctification, also ruler of the fourth heaven, tutelary czar, angelic prince of Israel, guardian of Jacob, conqueror of Satan. And that's Davidson's angel book, page 193. Michael goes by the title of the Viceroy of Heaven, a title once held by Satan before his fall. And this is very interesting, that we don't actually know the real name of Satan, because in Hebrew it's Hasatan, which basically means the Satan, which means the adversary. And some have suggested that he played a role sort of as a prosecutor, but we never get his actual name. The Dead Sea Scroll War of the Sons of Light against the Sons of Darkness calls Michael the Prince of Light, who leads the angels of light in the battle against the angels of darkness, on and off, night and day. And thou shalt make 2 cherubim of gold, of beaten work shalt thou make them, in the 2 ends of the mercy seat, Exodus 25:18. Now LXDRI1F7 links the wings of the cherubim to the veil. And you can see that it also, as he pointed out, like the horns of Moses, these wings look like an arc of electricity going up. And the ark had a veil or curtain covering it, paroketh or paroket, because we don't know actually the real pronunciation of biblical Hebrew. The cherub, sword-wielding angels, represent the night, Erev. Strong's Hebrew 6153, the Theological Word Book of the Old Testament, 1689a, in contrast to the seraphim, the fiery, non-human serpent angels. Now, LXDR1F7 has a video titled "The Crown is the Sword, Cherub, and the Wings of the Cherubs," that goes into this in more detail. He's got some pretty interesting things to say about the cover and the night. Every time a bell rings, an angel gets his wings. It's a wonderful life when the cherub Clarence gets his wings. And, quote, "Be not forgetful to entertain strangers, for thereby some have entertained angels unawares." Hebrew 13:2. And you would think that if angels had wings here on the earth, people would notice them when they invite them to their house. So, who knows about this story? Adele, a cherub. And here, the intro to the video that you can see on YouTube of St. James Infirmary by Cab Calloway and his Cavaliers. CC for the 33, and Cavaliers, as in Cavaliers, as in King Charles I and his Cavaliers, or LeBron James, the king known as King James in the NBA, and the Cleveland Cavaliers. And the Cavaliers, I think, stands for the Kabbalah. And here we have the World Health Organization logo with the rod of Asclepius. And Vicky S. recently, March 26, 2020, uploaded a video called "The Crown, the Crow, and the Invert" that discusses the birth of Asclepius and more. Asclepius, the crown and the crow. Legends tell us Apollo impregnated the mortal woman Coronis, as in crow or crown. Apollo set a white crow or raven to watch Coronis. The raven told Apollo about Coronis's unfaithfulness, so either Apollo or his twin sister Artemis killed Coronis with an arrow. Now, of course, we know when you have male and female twins in mammals, you tend to get a free marten out of the female one. I don't know if that's always, but often. Then, angry with the white crow, Apollo turned him black. Today, Asclepius, the child of the crow or the crown, wants us all to stay at home and not come out to play because Asclepius represents the patron or god of medicine. Seraphim, fiery serpent angels. Seraph means a fiery serpent angel. And the Lord sent fiery ha-seraphim, serpents, hanahashim, among the people, and they bit the people, and much people of Israel died. Numbers 21:6. Christian angelology places the seraphim first among the angels. And here we have St. Francis' vision of a seraph attributed to Giotto di Bondone. And here it doesn't look like it looks sort of like a Sesame Street version of a seraphim with a little plump feathered bird there. In the House of Lords and Commons, the political system separates the Lords, seraphim, from the commons, hairy men. Parliament separates heaven, Lords, Yahweh, seraphim, from earth, commons, or plebes. Commons derives from the Latin commons, which means hairy or leafy. Hairy connotes the mammal man, and leafy may connote the green man, or Robin Hood, or Jesus, the hairy savior. And here we have Mercury, god of the crossroads, and his symbol. And here we have a crucifix by Giotto di Bondone, and painted in 1288 to 89, and this crucifix and painting has some very interesting things that I would like to go over here. First, you notice the date 1288 to 89. I think that makes Giotto contemporaneous with the historical Jesus, and I think perhaps Giotto saw the crucifixion, but more likely he saw Jesus in Italy near Lake Garda, because Bondone is to the west of Lake Garda, and Verona, where we saw that Jacob went to live, is east of Lake Garda. And I think Jesus went there. And then we can look at this. If you look at the left-hand side of this, from our perspective of this cross, you see a woman in a blue robe, which could represent either Mary Magdalene or Mary, the mother of Jesus. Because in art, although some people say they painted Mary Magdalene in red, actually painters painted both of them in blue often. And then on the right side, then in the middle, you see Jesus with red hair and a red beard. And I think this historically correctly represents Jesus. I think Jesus had red hair. And on the right side, you see another redhead man, which I think represents a younger Jesus with a clean shaven face and shorter red hair. And here we have the hairy Harry and the clean shaven Harry with red hair. And here we have the camp of Israel drawn out in the form of the cross of Mercury. And at the east, which is on the bottom here, you have the tribe of Judah with a lion. And then on the south, you have the camp of Reuben, which has the man symbol. And then on the west, you have the camp of Ephraim, which is the ox symbol. And here in this, it says the camp of Dan with the eagle symbol. But in reality, Dan had the serpent as his symbol. And here we see man facing off against the serpent, commoners and lords, separated by the priests, the Levites. Constantine and the cross. Historians tell us the Roman Emperor Constantine made Mercury's cross into the symbol of Christianity. The Romans and their Catholic or Universal or Borg Church took an instrument of torture and succeeded in getting billions of people to pray to it and wear it as a religious symbol. Resistance is futile, the Borg tell us. Quote, modern historians base their observation on the Scaligerian chronology, believing that the medieval authors had attained a state of great confusion in what concerned both concepts and epochs, due to their alleged ignorance, and that they had confused the ancient biblical epoch with the medieval one. Medieval painters, for instance, kept portraying the biblical and the ancient characters in typically medieval costumes. However, another point of view is also viable, one that differs from the traditional love for anachronism's explanation, namely that all of the statements made by medieval chronographers and artists may have reflected reality, and we consider them to be anachronistic because we follow the erroneous Scaligerian chronology, and that's Anatoly T. Fomenko in his volume 1 of his History, Fiction, or Science. And I really think Fomenko got a lot of things right. And of course, like all of us, he got a lot of things wrong, but that's just us as humans. And here we have the alchemical symbol of Mercury, a wheel on top of a head at a crossroads. And also the wheel, the half wheel, looks sort of like the arch or the horns of Satan or the horns of Moses. Pierre Curie's death. Pierre Curie, the husband of Marie Curie, or Mercury, died in a freak accident at a crossroads when he slipped on wet pavement and the wheel of a horse-drawn wagon crushed his head. Thanks to Hoaxbuster and his video, Marie Curie versus Mercury, the Chamber of Reflection. Pierre Peter, firstborn. Pierre, or Peter in English, means the firstborn issue of the maternal line, the first to open the matrix, Theological Word Book of the Old Testament, 1764a and b, and Strong's Hebrew, 6363. Quote, regarding the institution of primogeniture in the Old Testament, there are two distinct conceptions. First, there is a social legal one which assigns special status to the first male of the paternal line, Bekor. Second, there is a cultic conception which assigns special responsibilities to the first male issue of the maternal line, Peter. This one is dedicated to God. If it is a sacrificial animal, it must be sacrificed. Otherwise, the firstborn must be redeemed. Exodus 34:19. End of quote. The Theological Word Book of the Old Testament, 1764a. Now, if you read this carefully, there's something biologically wrong with the second part. Because how can a woman have a firstborn issue of her line without a man's cooperation? And I think this reflects the idea of the Immaculate Conception from Christian theology. Here we have the Annunciation by Hans Memling from the 1480s with a red-haired Angel Gabriel and two other unknown angels, and a red-haired Mary. This red hair theme permeates, and there's just a ton of art that shows Mary as red-haired. Peter, firstborn. Exodus 13:2. Sanctify unto me all the firstborn. Whatsoever openeth, Peter, the womb, matrix, among the children of Israel, both of man and of beast, it is mine. Exodus 34:19. All that openeth, Peter, the matrix, is mine, and every firstling, Peter, among thy cattle, whether ox or sheep, that is male. So rather than going with the naval idea of our birthday, maybe we should say that we opened the matrix on a particular day. Sanctify or sacrifice. Exodus 13:2. Quote, sanctify, Kadesh, Strong's Hebrew 6946, the Theological Word Book of Old Testament, 1990, unto me all the firstborn. Whatsoever openeth, Peter, the womb among the children of Israel, both of man and of beast, it is mine. End of quote. Kadesh, the word translated as sanctify or consecrate, could mean sacrifice or cut or perhaps castrate. Kadesh from Strong's Hebrew 6945 means a male temple prostitute, perhaps a eunuch. Kadesh, the cut man. Strong's Hebrew 6946 defines Kadesh to mean holy. The Theological Word Book of the Old Testament, 1990, says, the suggestion that the root QDSH is derived from an original bilateral QD, cut, is attractive but tenuous. Historians tell us the Masoretes created the Nikud, or Hebrew vowel system, in the Middle Ages. And if you actually read about scholarship about Hebrew in the 1500s and the 1600s, basically scholars couldn't speak Hebrew. They were all trying to learn it. The QD root can read cut because D and T can transpose. Ish means man in Hebrew. Strong's Hebrew 376 and the Theological Word Book of the Old Testament 83a. Kadesh or Kaddish means cuttish, cut man. English, Cornish, Irish, Scottish, Welsh, Danish, Flemish, Swedish, Finnish, Polish, Spanish, Moorish, Turkish. Kadesh, cutting with fire. Esh means fire in Hebrew. So QD, cut, kod, in Kadesh could mean cut fire like a laser. This would represent the seraphim, the fiery serpents, while cut man would represent the cherubim, the sword-wielding human-like angels. But iconography often shows the cherubim with flaming swords, so who knows? Peter, the rock of the Catholic Church. And I say also unto thee that thou art Peter, firstborn issue of the female line, and upon this rock, which in Latin is Petra or Peter, I will build my church. It's a polyglottal wordplay. And the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. Matthew 16:18. This verse may have an occult reference to the birth of Zeus. Matthew 16:18 in Zeus. Gaia, the earth goddess, wed her son Uranus, or Uranus, the sky god. Their son Cronus castrated Uranus with a sickle and deposed him. Gaia and Uranus told Cronus that his own child would depose him, so Cronus ate his children by Rhea. After the birth of Zeus, Rhea wrapped up a rock, Petra, in swaddling clothes and offered it as a sacrifice to Cronus, who ate it. Zeus later would force Cronus to disgorge his siblings. And here we have Cronus eating one of his children by Peter Paul Rubens, which is in the Prado now. And here we have Francisco Goya's version of the same thing, which historians tell us he painted on a wall inside his house, presumably in his kitchen. And after his death, somebody copied this and put it in the Prado. So the Prado has two Kronos or Saturn eating his children. And here we have Tony the Sickle. Fauci means sickle in Sicilian Italian. And then interesting, in regular Italian and standard Italian, la falcetta means sickle, and falcetta is basically the same as falsetto, but falsetto is masculine with an A at the end, and it changes the CE to an SE in the middle. So, if you use a sickle on somebody, they would start singing in a falsetto. And mother-son incest. The theme of mother-son incest goes back to Gaia and Uranus. Perhaps Zeus wed his mother Rhea because his wife in mythology, Hera, consists of an anagram of Rhea. Hera consists of an anagram of Rhea. 2 videos from now, we will see the same with Oedipus, Akhenaten, and Bethuel. The most forceful swear word in English reflects this act. And the Gallic cockerel, or le coq gallois, the young rooster, or rossignol, one of the symbols of Mercury, Hermes, and of French Catholicism. So we link again France, Mercury, and the Catholic Church. Mercury and the rooster. The French historically have gone by the name Gauls. The Romans called the Gaul the Gallus. Gallus in Latin means rooster. Jesus said unto him, Peter, verily I say unto thee, that this night before the cock crow thou shalt deny me thrice. Caesar on the Gauls and Mercury. Julius Caesar in his Gallic Wars wrote, they, the Gauls, worship as their divinity Mercury in particular, and have many images of him, and regard him as the inventor of all arts. They consider him the guide of their journeys and marches, and believe him to have great influence over the acquisition of gain and mercantile transactions. Thank you for watching. The next video will discuss the tale of Dionysus or Bacchus in Asia, today's United States. After that, we finally will arrive at the stories of Oedipus and Akhenaten. Then I will make my first video on Jesus.